born in a charity hospital in Pineville, Louisiana, and was raised in a small community of Taylor Hill, Louisiana. Today, that young country boy is an icon in many central Louisiana communities.
Smith's road to being a math teacher and basketball coach has some roots on a central Louisiana cotton farm, where he took a summer job in high school. Although his father had grown familiar with manual labor, working in a sawmill, young Charles soon knew picking cotton was not for him.
A 100-pound sack, you fill the 100-pound sack up and you made your 100, because that was the goal, to pick 100 pounds. So at the end of the day, to make a long story short, we worked for this white man on his farm. And at lunchtime, he would take you to his store and you would purchase your lunch. You would buy a cold drink. You would purchase meat and bread to make a sandwich with. So at the end of the day, thinking I had 100 pounds, which would give you a pretty good amount of money, I ended up I only had 38 pounds. And so I left that job, didn't go back. I left that job owing the man for my lunch.
Worked on the farm, different things like that, you know how you work on a farm, bale hay and all that stuff. Work at bed meal.
Mm-hmm. Because when he was here with us, if they was picking cotton, they go pick cotton. If they was chopping cotton, they go chop cotton. If they was picking up pecans, they go pick the pecans up. And that's right. And they wasn't no easygoing thing, you know, because they worked hard.
Well, as a young boy growing up, I grew up in a close-knit family with my mother, father, and 6 brothers and sisters. So there were a total of 7 in the family. So we were a close-knit family. To kind of give you an idea, we all worked hard, or either we worked hard or we studied hard. My dad, being a World War II veteran, taught us the importance of responsibility. My mother, being a former, in the 1940s, church house school teacher, taught us the importance of an education.
I would always say, you're going to school, you're not going there to play, you're going to get your education, and you're going to be something and do something, all right?
Not far from the backwater town of Boyce, where he graduated from now shuttered Wettermark High School in 1967. In more than 3 decades as Peabody's head coach, Smith has become like a second father to many of his athletes.
And I don't coach basketball to win games. I coach basketball to help young people do better.
I give my mom, I love her to death. I give her all the credit in the world for keeping our family together, to keeping that bond tight, and for keeping a lot of stress, home stress, off my dad where he could pursue his passion. I have to give my success, I have to give 90% of that to my wife, because she has been very supportive. She has encouraged me in bad times to hang in there, to work harder. She encouraged me after I finished college and started teaching to go back and get my master's degree. She encouraged me to do that. She encouraged me to, to be the best that I can and to help young people. And like I said before, without her, there's no way I could have received the degree of success that I have.
Kamisha Smith Ross, Smith's daughter, has a doctorate in education, and Smith's son, Kedrick, played for his dad at Peabody and at UNC Charlotte, and is now his top assistant coach, having coached beside his father for 8 years.
My father, Coach Smith, has been a phenomenal resource, not only to myself, but to so many of his students as a math teacher and coach at Peabody Magnet.
Working with my dad every day, it's an honor and a privilege. It's an honor, to be around a legendary coach every day, learning, being in the environment. And it's also a privilege to be, alongside your dad, creating memories on the basketball court and off the basketball court. So just to be around him as much as I can, soaking in as much knowledge as I can, it's a blessing within itself.
Smith credits Ernest Bowman for being his first mentor as a basketball coach. His early experience as a head coach was tough, with 2 straight losing seasons, including an 8-18 record his first year. Since then, however, he has coached 29 straight winning seasons, with at least 22 victories every year. That includes 2 undefeated 41-0 seasons in 2004, led by a trio of future college stars, John Ford of McNeese State, Lance Brasher of the University of Louisiana Monroe, and Ken Baker of Grambling. And in 2010, when Smith again had a trio of future college players in Markel Brown, Oklahoma State, Calvin Balque, Missouri Western, and Brandon Morris, Houston.
Ironically, I wasn't given this opportunity starting off. The situation, I started off teaching in 1971 in a little school called Slocum High School, and through integration it was closed down, and I was moved over to Pineville High School. And at Pineville High School I was told that there were no coaching slots available. And at that time, all the coaches on their staff, they were white coaches, and there were no coaching spots available for Coach Smith, a young black aspiring coach. So when the opportunity arose, I transferred over to Peabody, and then God said, okay, hey, now I'm going to use you, and I'm going to use you to help my people.
Now, before we get started, and I want to say again, Peabody basketball is about, number one, family. And I tell that all the time, all right? Number 2 is we're trying to make each and every one of you all the best basketball players that y'all can be. But in order to do that, number 1, I told you got to be a good person, right? What's number 2? Got to be a good student, right? And then number 3, you come out here and you work as hard as you possibly can work in order to be the best basketball player you can be. To kind of give you a story here, I started coaching here in 1975, 76 season. I started coaching here as an assistant coach. And I got a taste of a state championship. We won a state championship in 1979. So that kind of gave me some idea of the potential of the young boys in this area. Not only were they good basketball players, but they had potential to become champions. So when I took over the head job in 1985, my first 2 seasons were losing seasons. And being a coach and a math teacher, I saw a problem. So I had to get out and see what was the problem. So what I did was I went and I walked through the neighborhoods. I went to the Sonia Quarters, I went to Lower 3rd, Willow Glen, Samtown, Cars Park at that time. And I sit down and I talk with the parents and my basketball players. And I found out that we all was not on the same page. And when I say on the same page, and also had to be in the same book, that education had to be number 1. And we were going to use basketball to propel them from their situation to a course of success. And once I was able to do that in 1988, I signed my first player to a basketball scholarship, Kevin Madden. And after that year, he was my very first one. And after that year, the kids fell in line, and we were able to sign 2, 3, 4, and I think at the most at one time we had 7 guys to sign a scholarship in 1 year. The middle school coach told me that these boys were troubled kids, and there's no way that I was going to be able to work with them. Both Desmond King and also we called him T. Roy Jones. But when these guys came into me, they bought into what we were trying to do, and they had an outstanding high school career. Both got their high school diplomas, and both went on to college, and both got their college degrees. So that's a success story that I'm always talking about. Young men at-risk kids that we brought in, and we were able to change the direction of their lives. But I never believed that a kid was bad. I mean, he might have bad ways, but I think in his core that he is a good kid. So what I would do is take these young kids under my wing, I would put them into our program, and since our program had developed a reputation for being the very best,
not only on the basketball court, but off the basketball court. So as I brought these young men in and they were able to mix and mingle with the other players, then that changed their whole attitude, changed their whole outlook on an education. They became better students, and once they played basketball now to use basketball for them in order to get an education. At one time, I required them that they must have a 2.0 GPA. And those kids, they stuck to that. And also I required them to come to school every day and be on time, you know. That, to me, that was very, very important in getting them to be strong young men. And once they found that out and developed that, when they went off to college, they did the same thing. They would be to class on time, they would be at class every day, and then they would be at practice every day, and they would work extremely hard.
8 boys basketball state championship banners hang from the rafters at the gymnasium at Peabody High School in Alexandria, Louisiana. One individual has had a role in all of them. Charles Smith, the team's 68-year-old head coach, orchestrated 7 of Peabody's state titles, and he's been a part of all 8 since he was an assistant coach when the Warhorses claimed their first state championship in 1979. More than 50 players under Smith's tutelage received college or junior college scholarships, including 29 All-State honorees. It's little wonder he has coached teams to 27 district championships and 18 state tournament appearances, in addition to 2 state runner-up finishes.
I would say Coach has 2 personalities. He's pretty laid back, but when the game starts, he's really about making sure you're doing what you're supposed to do.
When you look at Coach Smith, he was a godsend to Peabody High when you think about everything that he put into that program.
The impact that he had on all of us as students, as just people, and how much he cared and how much he wanted to be the best of us and get us to be the best version of ourselves. I'll never be able to thank him enough.
One of the best high school coaches in Louisiana, if not the best.
We were mathematically driven. We were forced as athletes to take all of the math classes that was there, and unbeknownst to me at the time, it really represented the nucleus of how my critical thinking skills would be developed.
It's a blessing for him to really coach his own grandson, because he been doing this for a long time. My bad. He been doing this for a long time, so I just want to tell him thank you for believing in me, letting me play here for 4 years, and it's truly a blessing. I got the hardest out of everybody. He was on me 24/7, nonstop. Whenever I did something wrong, he picked on me. But I appreciate it because it helped me out in the long run.
Coach Smith was very instrumental in my growth as a young man. He taught me to strive to be the best I could be, make good grades, make good decisions, and attend college. Coach Smith was the first male role model in my life. They gave me positive and negative feedback, which was very important in my growth as a basketball player and person. He was the father figure in my life when I had no father. Coach Smith set an example of how to become a champ. Caring helps another make progress. He taught me to become a leader through the game of basketball. I'll never forget, he gave me the ball and said, "Michael, I expect you to be the floor leader of this team."
It's huge. It's huge for us. Peabody has a tradition of excellence and always striving to be number one. And the great thing about Coach Smith, not only is he number one in terms of being a coach, he's number one in terms of being an educator, a mentor, athletic director. He's all about excellence. And so this is just an opportunity for us to further show our kids that hard work does pay off. Coach Smith was my Algebra 2 teacher, and epitome of excellence. In the classroom, he demanded nothing but the best.
Coach Smith is a man who is dedicated to a process towards success, of doing the little things every day it takes to be successful. His commitment is unwavering, and he does not change to adapt to individuals. Individuals have to adapt to the process that he knows that works. And those are the kinds of lessons that I learned from him very early on, and I used in school, in law school, in business school, and even today on my job. It is about the process, doing the things you have to do every day to be successful. There are no shortcuts to it. There's no easy path, but the reward is great when you've made the commitment to do the things the right way.
We had curfews, we had study hall. It's just preparing us for college, in which most of us did go on to have a collegiate career. But the discipline that Coach Smith instills in his ball players is what makes him winner.
Brown advanced all the way to the NBA, playing 2 seasons for the Brooklyn Nets.
I just want to thank him for always believing in me and for taking me in as one of his sons, just always lifting me up when I'm down and showing me the basics of basketball for me to become the player that I am today. So I just want to thank Coach Smith for everything he's done for me.
Although dealing well with the media may not be a requirement for a high school basketball coach, Smith was a natural with the press and was even honored in 2013 with the Louisiana Sports Writers Association's Casey Kaminsky Award, annually given to a principal, coach, or LHSAA official who has helped foster a strong relationship between high schools and sports writers over the years.
You know, when you cover someone so long in sports, and he was always accommodating. Anytime we'd call him to try to set up an interview, good or bad, mostly good, but you know, they had some issues. But still, he was always accommodating. He would always make time to do the interview.
He comes across as a gentleman. He was a good man. He took care of the kids. He's been blessed in the fact that he's had good talent for a long time, okay? Which it helps to build that resume. It really does. But he also does a really good job of coaching kids, and he does a good job of taking care of his kids.
That, to me, investing in another human being's life through your own sacrifice of time and energy and perhaps your own career success, I thank you for it. And I know that there are hundreds and hundreds of young men and families that thank you for the time and the energy and the effort that you have contributed to this community.
If you want to be the best, you have to play the best, and you have to beat the best. So if you're going to play mediocre teams just to get a winning record, and then when the crunch time comes for playoffs, you're not going to be that long. You have to play the best in order to be the best. And that's what I think has propelled him to where he is, because he goes beyond district. No, he's not talking about retirement, because we're looking at that 1,000 win.
I think he takes more pride in getting the students scholarships and helping them prepare themselves better. So he's done that quite consistently. He's coached them on basketball. He's also coached them on life and preparation for life. So, in my opinion, I think that's his biggest motivation.
We say thank you right now. Thank you, Lord, because without you, Lord, we can't do nothing. Oh, God.
Smith still regularly attends the Country Baptist Church of his youth.
Christianity was instilled in me at an early age. My mother made sure that we went to church and Sunday school.
He knows I wasn't going to play. I was going to use the switch when he was little. But when we had Sunday school church, in the choir, I had him in Sunday school church and in the choir, they could sing. I was, oh no, you get out of here, you go to church. Nobody but the Lord. That's right, and we can't do nothing without the Lord.
Because he is a very religious man, and you can tell that in his actions. Because in the end, he's putting the best foot forward, and he's putting the children's best foot forward. So when our players walk away from here,
He's looking for leadership because we go all over the United States. And when we go, we're invited back strictly because of the rules and what he demands of our players when we get out of town.
Former player Eric Hayward sought Smith in both. He called in excitement about his part of 2 NCAA basketball championships with the University of Connecticut, as well as in sadness to inform Smith that his younger brother and former Warhorse and UNC Charlotte star Charles Hayward had died from a rare blood disease.
Had an outstanding high school career here at Peabody. His senior year, we lost in the semifinals. He went on, he got a college scholarship to University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Had an outstanding freshman year, and at the end of that year, he developed leukemia. And Coach called me one evening. My wife and I were at Southern University. My daughter went to Southern University, and we were down there one Saturday at a football game at Southern University, and I got a phone call from Coach Pierre, Butch Pierre, which I'm very close friends, saying that Charles was having some problems. And they took him to the doctor to find out what the problem was, and they found out that he had leukemia.
So me and my brother was, I can say, we was tight, we was bonded. That's why it really hit me when he passed away. And I took on a whole bunch of stuff on my own that I should have had to seek help for, and I didn't. But I'll say more of my relationship with him. I think it helped me strengthen my relationship with Coach Smith also, because we wound up having the same coach, and pretty much the same discipline, because he was a little bit, he knew education was everything.
That was very devastating to me. Charles left here as a pitcher of help. But that just goes to show you how life can change in a blinking of an eye. And as I said, he had an outstanding career. He was on the road to becoming one of the best players in Conference USA at that time. And no doubt in my mind, he was going to be an outstanding NBA player. But his life was cut short by leukemia. I was very devastated for him and his family, and also his mother. I got to know his mother real well because his older brother, Eric, also played for me. And he went on to play at UConn. He had Ray Allen for a teammate. So it was very devastating to me. When I attended the funeral, it just cut me to the core. Knowing this fine, healthy, 6'9" young man that I've been knowing basically most of his life is no longer with us.
As one who was incarcerated for several years for sexual abuse charges, Eric Hayward also called when he was in jail and needed Smith's help.
Again, my heart is saddened. Eric went off and had a great career at the University of Connecticut. He played with guys like Ray Allen, and because most of you know the history of Connecticut basketball. Back when they had Coach Calhoun, they were one of the top programs in the country at that time. Eric received his degree from the University of Connecticut. He went off and got a job at one of the local homes for young people, and he got into a little bit of trouble, and that kind of changed his whole life around. So now he's struggling with it. We talk quite often, and I tell him to keep his head up, stay strong. And that's what I told you before. I tried to make these young men strong because I knew there would be ups and downs. So I talk to him, I tell him to be strong and try to encourage him, and hopefully, things would turn out for the better.
He's there for the good times and the bad times, no matter how you really look at it. And a lot of people, I found out the hard way, when times are good, they there, but when times are bad, they turn it back on you, they walk away. He had always been there for me. And I thank him for that, because, there's a lot of people that just turn it back on you, even family turn it back on you.
My thing is, if you enjoy doing what you're doing, you keep on doing it. I've never seen him suffer from burnout. I don't think he's capable of burnout. He's like the ever-ready bunny. Just keep on going.
Shake it.
celebrate his success tonight.
And this was a way to give back to Coach and